I told you to stay out of my business!
You're dismissed!
The Mafia boss's mother was on her dying bed. The first doctor came, did everything he could, and failed. Then the 5th, then the 10th, then the 20th, then the 30th. And by the time the 50th doctor stepped away from her hospital bed, even the air in the room felt defeated. We've done all we can. 50 doctors had come and gone. 50 of the best names power could buy. Cardiologists, infectious disease specialists, intensivists, private consultants flown in before sunrise. And still the old woman on the bed was slipping away, breath by breath, while the most feared man in the city stood helpless at her side. Leon Vaesi had built an empire men were terrified to cross. With one call, he could move money, move weapons, move people, move governments if he had to. But now, standing beside the woman who gave him life, all that power meant nothing. Because death does not care who you are. The machines kept beeping. Slow, uneven, merciless. His mother's fingers, once warm enough to calm his childhood nightmares, now lay cold against the white sheet. Her lips had lost their color. Her chest rose so faintly it seemed like even her body was surrendering. And for the first time in years, Leon Vaesi looked afraid. Not angry, not dangerous, afraid. Then the final specialist removed his gloves, lowered his eyes, and said the words no son is ever ready to hear. Prepare yourself. Leon didn't move, didn't blink, because in that moment, the truth hit harder than any bullet ever could. 50 doctors had failed to save his mother, and the only person who might still save her was the woman he had humiliated, insulted, and thrown out like she was nothing. And then the ICU doors opened. A nurse stepped inside. Simple uniform, calm eyes, quiet footsteps. The same nurse he had humiliated. The same woman he had thrown out of his mansion. The same woman he had publicly disgraced, as if she were nothing. No one in that room knew why she had returned. And in that terrifying moment, when all his wealth, pride, and power had already failed, Leon realized something too late. Sometimes the person you treat as unimportant becomes the only one standing between you and unbearable loss. And when she stepped up to his mother's bed, what she did next shocked everyone, including the best doctors money could buy. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Weeks earlier, Rosa Vaesi, the mother of the most feared billionaire mafia boss in the city, sat alone in her private sitting room with a shawl over her shoulders and a cup of tea growing cold in her hands. At first, she thought it was only a normal fever. A little weakness, a little dizziness, a little cough, the kind of sickness older people dismiss because they do not want to trouble anyone. Especially their sons. Especially sons like Leon, who carried too much violence in their lives already. But Rosa knew something else too. There was one person she trusted when it came to her health. Not the famous specialists. Not the polished private physicians who bowed to her last name. A nurse, a woman with quiet eyes and steady hands named Elena Maris. Elena was not wealthy, she did not come from power. She worked long shifts, took public transport, and lived in a small apartment with more books than furniture. But there was something unforgettable about her. She listened before speaking. She observed before judging. She carried herself with a kind of calm strength that made frightened people feel safe. Rosa had met her months earlier during a discreet recovery period after a minor procedure. While doctors rushed in and out, Elena was the one who noticed when Rosa hid her pain, when her breathing changed, when her medicine made her slightly confused before anyone else caught it. From that day on, Rosa trusted her. Not because Elena impressed her, because Elena understood her. So that evening, with fever warming her skin and weakness pressing into her bones, Rosa picked up her phone and called Elena herself. "Elena," she said softly, trying to sound fine, "I think I may be overreacting. It's probably only a fever." On the other end, Elena's voice sharpened with concern. "How long has it been going on?" 2 days. Any shortness of breath? A little. Any swelling, rash, fatigue? Rosa hesitated. Too long. Elena stood from her chair immediately. "I'm coming." "You don't need to rush." "Yes," Elena said, already reaching for her bag, "I do." Because wisdom often looks like urgency before anyone else understands why. Rain streaked the city as Elena arrived at the Vaesi mansion. The place looked less like a home and more like a kingdom defended by fear. black gates, armed guards, marble floors, silent staff trained to disappear. Everything about it announced power. But sickness does not bow to power. By the time Elena reached Rosa's room, the old woman's condition had worsened. Her face was pale under the fever. Her breathing was too shallow. Her hands trembled slightly against the blanket. On the bedside table sat a line of medications, some new, some old, arranged neatly by a servant who had no idea one of them might be making things worse. When Rosa saw Elena, relief softened her eyes. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. Elena moved close, checked her pulse, asked questions, examined her breathing, the color of her skin, the swelling near her ankles, the faint rash near her collarbone. Her expression changed. This was no ordinary fever. Something deeper was unfolding, something systemic, something dangerous. "We need to act now," Elena said. "I need the full medication list and the timing of every new prescription." But before Rosa could answer, her eyes rolled back. Her body went limp. She collapsed into unconsciousness. The room erupted in panic. Servants screamed. One maid dropped a tray. Another ran for help. But Elena did not panic. She lowered the bed angle, opened Rosa's airway, checked her oxygen, repositioned her, and began emergency support with a level of precision that cut through the chaos like a blade. And that was the exact moment Leon Vaesi walked in. He had just returned from an emergency meeting. He was exhausted, already angry, already carrying the kind of tension that made everyone step aside when he entered a room. Then he saw his unconscious mother on the bed, and a woman in plain scrubs leaning over her. "What is this?" His voice thundered across the room. Elena didn't turn. "Call for oxygen support now. Bring me every medication she's taken this week." No one moved. Leon stepped closer, cold fury rising in his face. "Who are you?" "Elena Maris, step back and let me work." But fear and pride make dangerous partners. He didn't see control. He didn't see intelligence. He didn't see the woman his mother trusted. He saw someone beneath his world, touching the one person he loved most. And pride blinded him. He grabbed Elena's wrist and yanked her back. "I said get away from my mother." "She's in critical condition," Elena snapped. "You are wasting time." No one in that mansion spoke to Leon Vaesi that way. The room froze. Then he did something he would regret for the rest of his life. He humiliated her. Brutally, publicly. He called her a fraud, accused her of crossing boundaries, mocked her status, her clothes, her presence in his house. In front of guards, servants, and staff, he made her look small, because powerful people often attack dignity when they cannot control fear. Even while being dragged back, Elena kept trying to warn him. "This is not a simple fever. Check the medication changes. Check interactions. She needs full diagnostic review now." Throw her out. And just like that, the one woman trying to save Rosa was pushed into the rain like she was nothing. At the front gates, Elena steadied herself, picked up her fallen medical bag, and looked back only once. Not at Leon. At the window of Rosa's room. Then she walked away. Leon immediately transferred his mother to the most expensive private hospital in the city. The building became his battlefield. He cleared entire floors. He called in top specialists from across the country. When those failed, he brought doctors from overseas. He used wealth, influence, reputation, fear, everything he had ever trusted. For a while, he believed money would win. That enough power could force life to stay. But life is not loyal to money. The first wave of doctors treated infection. No improvement. The next suspected an autoimmune reaction. Still nothing. Then came the cardiologists, pulmonologists, nephrologists, intensivists. Every expert focused on one piece of Rosa's collapse, but the whole picture kept escaping them. Her symptoms changed, shifted, deepened. Every treatment seemed to help one system and worsen another. Her body was becoming a puzzle no one could solve. And every time a new specialist entered, Leon stood up with hope. Every time they left, that hope broke a little more. Days passed. The strongest man in the city stopped sleeping. His beard grew rough, his suits wrinkled. He stopped taking calls unless they were about his mother. His empire kept moving outside those hospital walls, but inside that room, none of it mattered. He sat by her bed at night and remembered things that hurt. Her waking before dawn to make breakfast when they were poor. Her shielding him from his father's temper. Her hands stitching old clothes to make them last another winter. Her voice telling him when he was still young enough to listen, "Never insult humble people, Leon. One day your life may rest in the hands of someone the world ignores." At the time, he thought those were the words of a gentle woman who knew nothing about power. Now they sounded like prophecy. By the 10th Doctor, he was frustrated. By the 20th, he was enraged. By the 30th, fear had begun to crack him. By the 40th, his threats were empty, because who do you threaten when even genius has no answer? Then came the 50th. A man famous enough to be booked months in advance. A specialist whose name alone made hospital boards nervous. He studied Rosa's chart for nearly an hour. He examined her. He conferred with the team. Then he turned to Leon with tired eyes and said, "We've done all we can." That sentence didn't sound like medicine. It sounded like surrender. Leon stood motionless while the world went strangely quiet around him. Monitors still beeped, nurses still moved. Somewhere down the hall, a cart rolled past. But inside him, something collapsed. For the first time in his adult life, Leon Vaesi felt completely powerless. Then a housekeeper from the mansion arrived carrying Rosa's things. In the bag was a prayer book, a pair of glasses, and a folded note. Leon opened it. "If anything happens, call Elena. She notices what others don't." His breath caught. The guilt came all at once. Not as shame alone. As understanding. He had not thrown out a random nurse. He had thrown out the one person his mother trusted most. The one person who had seen danger before anyone else. The one person his pride refused to hear. Pride is cruel that way. It does not only blind you to other people's worth. It blinds you to your own desperation until it is too late. That night, Leon did something no one in his circle had seen before. He went to look for Elena himself. No bodyguards, no threats, no polished excuses. He found her in a small community clinic on the other side of the city, helping an elderly man understand his prescriptions. She spoke to him with the same patience she had shown Rosa, the same steadiness, the same dignity. When she saw Leon, her face did not change. That hurt more than anger would have. "My mother is dying," he said. Elena finished with the patient before answering. Only then did she step into the hallway. "You made your opinion of me clear already." He lowered his eyes. "I was wrong." She said nothing. "I humiliated you." "Yes. I thought power made me right." Her voice was calm, but it cut deeper than accusation. Power often makes people loud. It rarely makes them wise. He swallowed hard. For the first time, Leon did not defend himself. He did not explain. He did not hide behind pain. He let the truth stand between them. "My mother trusted you," he said quietly. "I know that now. I should have listened. I should have asked. I should have seen you." Elena looked at him for a long moment. "And now I know I was blind." The hallway went silent. She had every reason to refuse him. Every reason to let him live with the consequences of his arrogance. But Elena was not a woman ruled by revenge. She was ruled by principle. And Rosa mattered. "I'm not coming back for you," she said. "I know. I'm coming because she deserves every chance." His voice broke slightly. "I know." And for the first time, he truly did. And if you've been enjoying this story so far, this is the perfect time to subscribe so you don't miss more powerful stories like this. When Elena walked back into that hospital room, hope was already almost dead. The doctors looked at her with confusion, irritation, disbelief. Some saw only a nurse. Some saw an interruption. Some saw a desperate son making a foolish last move. Elena ignored all of them. She went straight to Rosa. She studied the monitors, reviewed the medication chart, checked the progression timeline, examined the skin, the eyes, the fingertips, the subtle inflammation along the neck and chest. Then she asked one question no one else had asked clearly enough. When exactly did her fever begin after the heart medication was changed? The room fell silent. One doctor flipped through the chart. Another leaned closer. Elena kept going, calm and precise. "You're treating the lungs, the kidneys, the heart, the inflammation as separate crises. They're not separate. The trigger is connected. The progression fits a severe adverse medication reaction, complicated by underlying cardiac stress. That's why each isolated treatment keeps failing." Now they were listening. Really listening. Not because of her title. Because truth has a sound people recognize when pride finally gets out of the way. Elena pointed to the chart. stop the triggering medication, review the interaction profile, support her through the systemic reaction. You missed the sequence because everyone was focused on specialties. Her body has been telling one story, no one heard it. Orders changed. Tests were rerun. Treatment shifted. And for the first time in days, Rosa's numbers began to stabilize. Slowly, painfully slowly. First, the oxygen levels improved. Then the pulse. Then the pressure. And just before dawn, Rosa's fingers twitched. Leon leaned forward, hardly breathing. Mother. Her eyes opened. Weakly, briefly, but unmistakably. She was alive. Leon staggered back like the force of relief had physically struck him. Then he broke, completely. The feared Mafia boss who made cities tremble dropped beside the bed and cried like a son who had nearly lost everything that mattered. Elena stood quietly a few steps away, exhausted, still, almost invisible again in the machinery and morning light. But this time, everyone in that room knew exactly who she was. Not the woman he had disgraced. The woman who saved Rosa Vaesi when 50 doctors failed. Days later, when Rosa was strong enough to speak, her first clear words were not for the specialists. They were for Elena. I knew you would come. Elena took her hand gently. Rest now. Rosa smiled faintly, then looked toward her son. Leon understood that look. It carried gratitude, rebuke, wisdom, and a mother's final lesson all at once. After Rosa recovered, Leon Vaesi was no longer the same man. Not all at once, not with speeches or expensive gifts, but slowly in the quiet ways that mattered. He listened more. He judged less. He stopped treating people as if status determined their worth. And Elena noticed. She did not forgive him cheaply. She did not melt because he was powerful. If anything, she became even more careful with him, but she saw that his guilt was real and that his change was not performance. It was painful, humbling, earned. Over time, respect began to grow where arrogance once stood. And with that respect came something softer. Something neither of them rushed to name. Because some love stories do not begin with passion. They begin with truth, humility, and the courage to become better than you were before. In the end, 50 doctors, endless money, and all the power in the world could not save Leon Vaesi's mother. The person who did was the woman he had looked down on. The woman he had humiliated. The woman whose wisdom, compassion, and attention saw what pride could not. And that is the lesson this story leaves behind. Never look down on anyone. Never neglect people because of status. Because sometimes, the person you dismiss today becomes the very person you need tomorrow. So let me ask you, have you ever seen someone the world underestimated turn out to be the one who mattered most? Like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories.